How has your former role as Chief Executive of the Equality Challenge Unit shaped your approach to diversity and inclusion?
At ECU, where I was for pretty much 8 years, I learned a lot about very strong evidence-based approaches to EDI, to equality, diversity and inclusion. It's probably not unfair to say that in some sectors, in some areas, EDI work is not much more than just being nice to each other or trying to be nice to each other. Whereas what we really tried to do at ECU was to dig into the particularities of underrepresentation and disadvantage to really understand how and why things happen beyond just people being nice or not nice or behaving well or badly. And I would say that complements my background originally as an activist and then as a lawyer. So I think collectively I feel very privileged to have had the opportunity of thinking and working in a variety of ways.
What can employers do to be more supportive towards people with disabilities?
That's a great question. I would say the starting point is to build relationships. Environments, whether it's work environments or study environments or research environments, are only fully inclusive if they literally engage everybody. So even though it may sound cheesy, I would say the starting point is for people to have relationships across diverse backgrounds, really. And then beyond that, co-creating the initiatives is important to ensure that everyone's voices are heard. Historically, at least, particularly in the case of disabled people, but not just them, decisions were made about them by non-disabled people. So it is important to pay attention that doesn't happen. Again, I think that's less likely to happen if there are real relationships in play, but that is something to pay attention to.
Does STEM offer particular challenges or opportunities for disabled people at work?
Well, obviously a lot of STEM work is laboratory based, so there are practical distinctions which need to be attended to, particularly to ensure that staff and colleagues and students with a variety of impairments can fully access the work and opportunities that are available. But I think conceptually it isn't different. So I would say it makes it interesting rather than a challenge. It's interesting to think about what fully inclusive science-based practice would look like. And it engages with people's creativity as well.
How are employers adapting interview processes to be fully inclusive?
More and more employers, and I'm not thinking necessarily in the STEM sector, but more generally, are paying attention to unconscious bias in recruitment and selection processes. So that could mean training to make sure that people understand how unconscious biases can play out inadvertently in decision-making processes. In the arts sector, for example, I know that some music colleges have instigated blind auditions, so they don't actually see the candidate for a place to study music. And that has led to a different demographic of intake than had been in the case in previous years. So there are innovative and new practices. I think in the case of science and disability, where perhaps traditionally there have been fairly specific ways of undertaking practice, it's more important to be creative and to think outside of the box.